Hi guys, it's Mr. Abel. I apologize I can't be there today, but it's going to be kind of interesting today. I've never done anything like this before, so all I ask today is that you stay really focused and you follow along closely. We don't have a lot of time before the end of school comes up, and I want to make sure that I can walk you through this and hopefully get this done before the end of the school year as your end of the year project. Essentially, what we're going to do is using PowerPoint, we're going to go ahead and create a maze game. I know it sounds really complicated and strange, but it's actually really, really fun and interesting if you can follow along. So I have this screen recording going. I'm going to talk you through and walk through a lot of the basic setup to it, and eventually when I come back, I'll be able to help you with some few finer points to it. This will be something that we probably work on our own a little bit outside of class time too, just to make sure you get some stuff done. But if you stay diligent with it and you stay focused, you can actually create some really cool things. But we'll go ahead and start with some basics here. We're going to go ahead and open up just a blank presentation here in PowerPoint. So I double click there and it opens it up, and I should have it fully across my screen here now. So after you have this new presentation, one thing I'd like you to make sure that you do is, first things first, on this first slide, typically it's set to one that's sort of your title slide. So what we're going to go ahead and do is down here where it says layout, we're going to click the layout button and we're going to change this. Go ahead and make this just a title only slide. Okay, so once it's a title only, I'm going to go ahead and just call this one practice maze. You guys can go ahead and call this whatever you want, maybe your end of year project or final maze, whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and just call it practice maze. And I'll go ahead and put my name in here so I know it's mine. And you guys can do the same real quick. As we're going along here today, if you need to, you can always ask the sub to make sure that they can pause the recording or go back and replay anything that we do just in case you missed it. Here, all we did was change the layout to title only and call it practice. You guys will say final maze. I'm going to go ahead and call mine practice maze here. So once we all have that done, what we're going to go ahead and do is set up some extra slides to this. So I'm over here, right near the upper left corner where it says new slide. I'm going to hit the drop down arrow and go ahead and add a blank slide here. In fact, I want to go ahead and repeat that about 2 more times. Just 2 more times right here. Okay. So what we're going to do is on one of these slides will actually be our maze, and then on the other slides we're going to have these set up to be sort of you lose or you win. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to skip slide 2 for right now. We're going to go down to slide 3 here. Okay. On slide 3, although we added a blank slide for right now, we'll go ahead and just come back to layout real quick, and we'll change it to, once again, we'll say just title only. At the top here, I'm just going to go ahead and write you lose. So again, at the top of slide 3, we're going to type you lose after you change it to title only. Click layout, choose title only, call it you lose. Once you do that, you have a choice if you want to center align it. I think that's always a good idea also. Just helps to kind of center it out. And then I want you to repeat what you did for that on on slide 4, excuse me. Click the layout button, go ahead and change it to title only again, and I want you to call this one you win. And I will also center that. So what I should have now is right now a title slide that says your end final maze, whatever your title is, blank slide on number 2, slide 3 says you lose, and slide 4 says you win. Okay. Now you have the basic setup here. What we're going to do is we're going to insert some of our buttons. Now, essentially with a presentation, you've noticed sometimes you can click on different things that'll link you to, let's say, different websites or to different parts of the slide. And this is what we call hyperlinking. Okay, most of the time you can click on a link and it takes you to an online website or things like that. We're essentially going to use these things called action buttons. So when you touch them or click on them, they take you to a different point on the PowerPoint slides. Essentially, this is what you're going to use to set up your boundaries, your end of a level part, whatever you have to do. This is how we're going to set it up. So we're going to go ahead and come back up here to slide 1, and we're going to start right here. Now, before we go any further, what I would suggest you guys do is just go to File, Save As, or Command-Shift-S. I would strongly urge you to save this. I'm going to go ahead and save it to the desktop as just Practice Maze. You guys can call it Final Maze. You might want to save it in your Computer Apps folder or your PowerPoint folder. Save it somewhere you know you're going to find it. You can call it your Final Maze. I'm just going to go ahead and save it there. Go ahead and save. Once everybody has that saved, we'll go ahead and take a quick pause here on the video, and once everybody has that done, we'll go ahead and continue. All right, so now that everybody has that saved, what we'll go ahead and do is move on to our first step, setting up these buttons. So we're going to use a lot of shapes in setting up our maze here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is here on the Home tab on the right side, it has the shapes right over here for us, okay? We're going to click on shapes, and for right now, we're just going to go ahead and insert just a basic block here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put one. I'm going to put my start button right over here underneath the title, just like this. Something pretty basic. Now, when you first input your shape for this button right now, we're not as concerned with this one since it's just our button. Any shape that you click on, if you double click in the center, it'll pull up your formatting menus. And if you want, when you go to text options here, we want to make sure that we have an outline behind it or any fill colors. Excuse me, we don't want any of those things. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just go ahead and start typing. If you have a shape created, you can start typing on it. So I'm going to type the word start. That doesn't seem to be working. Give me one quick sec. I apologize, guys. There we go. Most of the time, there we go. Once you click on the middle of the shape and you start typing, it'll actually work. Excuse me. So I'm going to go and just put the word start there, just like that. Basic setup. We know this is going to be my start button. Okay. Once I'm here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this button. Once I create my start button, once everybody's done that, I'm going to hit Command-C to copy. And then I'm going to go ahead and come over to slide 2. And once I just click on slide 2 here, I'm going to hit Command-V to paste. Now the reason I want to do that is very simple. In PowerPoint, wherever I click on my slide, or whatever I click on to take me to the next thing, is going to keep it from moving to a different spot. So wherever my start button is, that's where my cursor has to start. Okay, so I can't have my start button be here, and when I click it, all of a sudden my maze actually starts down here. It doesn't work like that. Wherever you click, it has to start. So now that we've copied this first button here, and we pasted it on here, we know exactly where our cursor has room to start out with. Okay, so also what I'm going to go ahead and do is on slide 2, I'm going to add a new shape. We'll add a new shape here. I'll just go ahead and make this one a circle for right now. I'll set it up down here in the corner. And I'm going to go ahead and just click in the center of this. I'm going to type finish. Okay, I type finish just like that. And I have that basic setup. I've got 2 buttons there. Okay, so I have my start button and my end button. Again, at any point, if you guys need to, you can also ask the sub to rewind it back so we can replay it. But again, all we did was create a start button right here. We copied it and pasted it right onto slide 2, pasting the exact same spot. And then in the bottom corner over here, we added a finish button. Okay, that's all I wanted you to do. All right, so now that we have these set up, here's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm going to go back to slide 1, and we're going to just click on this button itself right here. Now, when this button is active, okay, once this one is active here, we're going to go ahead and click on the Insert tab. Click on the Insert tab here. All right. Once I get to my Insert tab, right over here in the middle, you see 2 options. One says Hyperlink and one says Action. We're going to click this Action button. And you're going to get this dialog window to open up for you. Okay, again, I'll click Cancel. You have your shape selected. You go to the Insert tab, and then you're going to click this Action button right here. Now, we want to keep this one very simple. At the very top, you always want to pay attention to whether it's set to mouse click or mouse over. If it's mouse over, that means when your cursor touches it, it's automatically going to make the button work. So what we want to set this one for right now is mouse click. Okay. Now when you click on it right now, it's set to none. We're going to click this button that says Hyperlink to, and it's set to next slide right now. Okay, it's set to next slide for right now, which would work. But what I want you guys to start doing is choosing specific slides that you want to send this to. It's important you pick a specific slide because if we add stuff later, you want to make sure that it's not going to change where it sends it to. So when I hit the drop down arrow here, I'm going to come down to the very bottom section over here and you see where it says slide, ... So we're going to hyperlink it and choose slide ... And what this will do is pull up your slides in the PowerPoint presentation. And you can choose any slide we want to go to. So the obvious choice here, when you click on this button, we want to hyperlink it to choose slide 2, where our maze will end up being. Okay, so we're going to click slide 2 and we're going to click OK. Again, it's set to mouse click hyperlink to slide 2. And once that's set up, all I want to go ahead and do is click OK. So a very, very basic setup here. All right, a very basic setup. So at this point, if you successfully hyperlinked it, when you play the presentation, it will work. When you click on that button, it'll take you to the next slide. All right. At this point, it's also a good idea. You want to make sure you hit Command S to save every once in a while to make sure you're saving your work. We'll take a pause here to make sure everybody got to that point. So you go ahead and pause the video and make sure everybody has it done. Okay, so now we're going to keep going here. On slide 2, since we have our start button already set up, this we don't need to hyperlink at all. We've hyperlinked our first start button on slide 1. We don't need to worry about that on slide 2. This is just to show you where your cursor is going to have a relative area to start at with your maze. All right, so I'm going to come down to the bottom right corner and I need to hyperlink this finish slide to my final you win slide. Okay, so once again, all I'm going to do is I go back up to Insert and I can click the Action button. Another thing you might be able to do is 2-finger right click and you can go down to Action Settings. Once again, you can either click the Action button up here or 2-finger right click and go down to Action Settings. From here, once again, you can choose whichever one you want on this part. You can touch the Finish button with mouse over, or I'm going to go ahead and just do mouse click again. And I'm going to choose Hyperlink to, and I hit the drop down arrow and go down to slide ... and I'm going to go ahead and hyperlink this to you win, the final slide there. Okay, we're going to hyperlink this to the final slide. So I'm going to click OK. It's mouse click hyperlink to slide you win, which is exactly what we want. I click OK, and now that's taken care of. All right. Now that I have my button set up, one of the other things I want to do is come down here to my last slide, you win. So after you have those buttons set up, you come down here to slide you win. Okay. After you get to slide you win, what we're going to go ahead and do is once again, over under shapes, click the shapes button right here. Okay. And we'll go ahead and insert any shape you want here. For right now, because of the size, I'm going to go ahead and just do a rectangle again. I think it's very important that we have that there. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and create this big button right here that once I get to UN, we have to find a way to be able to get back to the beginning. Okay. So what we're going to set this up is our home button. So once again, I'm going to click in the center once, and I'm going to type the word home. Okay. If you want, when you type the word home, you can highlight the text, and I'll go ahead and increase the font quite a bit here. So it's clearly a home button. Okay. So now that I have this button, all I want to do is again change the action settings on. Okay, so I'm going to go to Insert. Here we go. I'm going to come over here to my action button. And we're going to go ahead and set this to mouse click. We need to hyperlink it. And we're going to choose this one we can set as our first slide. We know this is going to take us back to the first slide. So I'm going to hyperlink it to the first slide. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. All right. So we have a very basic setup. Once again, we added a shape for our home button. We typed the text home. I increased the font size. You do not have to do that. And you want to make sure you go to your action settings one way or the other. And you're going to set this up under mouse click and hyperlink it back to the first slide. Okay, so after that setup, we'll take a quick pause here and we'll stop and make sure everybody has it done. Neighbors, please help your fellow students out, and just in case they don't have it, but we'll take a quick pause here, make sure everybody gets that done. All right, now that we have that taken care of, the last thing I want to do before I move anywhere else is make sure that my program is set up that I can't just click to move forward. As you guys know, for all the presentations you set up, anytime you click, it will always typically take you to the next slide. Naturally, in any presentation, that's the basic setup. But we don't want that to happen here because everybody could just click through your maze. For example here, when I get here on my button, I get back to my first slide, excuse me, I'm going to click back on my Home tab here. And, oh, excuse me, we'll go down to the View tab. There we go. Oh, I apologize. My goodness. I need to go to slideshow. I apologize. Slideshow. I click on the slideshow, and we're going to click this play from start button over here on the left side. So go to the slideshow tab, and we're going to click play from start. Okay. Now, when you put your cursor over the start button, you see it works as a start button. Your cursor changed to a little finger. That means it's activated as a button, which is good. But because of our basic setup, no matter where I click, it always takes me to the next slide throughout the presentation. And then I get to a point where I get to the end, and that's it, and which is a problem. So we're going to go ahead and hit the escape button, and that takes us back to the beginning. This is set up in a certain way to make sure that our slideshow is prepared for everybody to click through just like normal. So on the slideshow tab, right over here, we're going to click this custom show, excuse me, not custom show, set up slideshow, where it says set up slideshow. And it pulls up this dialog box. Again, all you did was to go to the slideshow tab and you click set up slideshow. Now at the top here, it's set up as a presented by a speaker. Most of the time, that's how you guys use presentations, which is understandable, but I want you to change it from presented by a speaker full screen to browsed at a kiosk full screen. So you change it from presented to browse at a kiosk, and all you have to do is click OK. If you've ever used a kiosk before with kind of a digital screen, it won't move on until you click the actual buttons, which is the purpose. So now I'm going to go ahead and play from the start. I'll move my cursor. Even if I click out here, it's not going to continue for me. Okay, I'm going to have to use the button. And if we set this up right, when I click start, it takes me to slide 2. Again, if I click, it won't take me anywhere unless I get to the finish button, which I do, and I've won, which is awesome. And then I click home. It takes me right back to the beginning. Okay. Again, all you had to do was go to slideshow, click setup slideshow, and change it from presented by a speaker to browsed at a kiosk. Once you have that done, the basic groundwork of how your maze is going to work is created. And then we're going to go ahead and click OK. So at this point, it's also a good idea to go ahead and have a save moment. Let's go ahead and save right here. Command S to save. Give everybody a quick second to make sure they have that set up properly. We can take a quick pause. All right, so now that we have this set up, now comes the part where we have to set up some of our blockade, the actual challenge of our maze. So I want to come back over here to slide 2. Now in any maze game, if you've ever played it before, the premise is keep your cursor from touching one of the borders, because if you touch it, you lose. All right, so what we're going to have to do is insert a new shape here. So this time again, your best bet is under shapes. I want everybody, you need to do this rectangle shape. I want you to choose a rectangle for right now. And I'm just going to make this nice big bar right across just like this. Okay. Now with this new bar, you have to do 2 simple things first of all. Number 1, I want you to make sure that there is no border on this shape. I repeat, there can be no border on this shape that we've created, because when we use this shape and we copy and paste it after we make some of these settings, we want the borders to fit seamlessly and not see just a bunch of random shapes. We want it all to fit together as one piece. So the first thing I'm going to do once I have this new shape is I'm going to come up here to this border button, the shape outline, and I'm going to hit the drop down arrow and I'm going to choose no outline. I choose no outline. Okay. After I do that, the only other thing I want you to do is give this a fill color of your choice. Any fill color you want, it doesn't matter. I typically would like you to go with a solid color. No gradients or textures or anything like that. We want to keep it solid. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up as purple. Okay. So I have this purple rectangle sitting right in the middle. All right. Because this is a border, we have to set this up that if we touch this bar, we automatically lose. Okay. We automatically lose. All right. So the first thing I want to do is, with this shape selected, once again, I'm going to go ahead and come over to my Insert tab, and I'm going to click the Action button. With my shape selected, I go to the Insert tab, and I go to Action button. This time, you have to change it from mouse click to mouse over. If you do not set it to mouse over, your maze will not work. People can go anywhere they want. It doesn't really work unless you set it to mouse over. Make sure you change this shape to mouse over under your action settings. Once you have that done, if you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to hyperlink this to, go down to slide ... and I want you to choose you lose. And then you're going to click OK. So it's mouse over, hyperlink to slide you lose, and we click OK. Now, before we do anything else and test this out, I want to make sure that on our You Lose slide, we also have a home button. So one simple trick we're going to do is come back here to where we have You Win, and I want to click on this button I've created. I'm going to hit Command-C to copy it. So we're copying the home button on slide 4, and we're just going to paste it on slide 3 with Command-V. So now we have 2 home buttons automatically set up to take us right back to the beginning, regardless of whether we lose or we win. All right, so there we go. We have our basic setup, so let's test this out real quick, okay? If you have successfully hyperlinked this bar, I want you to go ahead and click on slideshow, and we're going to play from the start, and let's test this out. If I click start, it'll take me in the side. I automatically want you to go ahead and put your cursor over the bar. If it works, oops, we touch the bar, we lose, perfect setup, and we go ahead and click home, all right? It can take you back over if you successfully get around this very difficult part of the maze. You click finish, you've won, right back to the beginning, we have our setup, okay? So we hit escape, and now that you have the setup, the first thing I want you to do is save. At this point, I want you to save, okay? Command S to save. We'll take a quick pause here to make sure everybody's gotten to this point. Okay. Now that everybody's gotten to this point, now that we've set up our border, what we're going to do is using this basic piece, we're going to copy and paste, and all around the outside, we're going to build an outside border that people cannot leave the slide with. So I'm going to hit Command-C to copy and just hit Command-V to paste. And anytime I need a new piece, we're just going to hit Command-V. Now, luckily, these pieces, as you move them, will snap to certain parts of the slide, and it'll snap perfectly to the borders, okay? So now that it's here, you can use any corner, you can rotate, whatever you need to do. I'm going to have this set up just to stretch all the way across my bottom piece. Okay, with this one selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit Command-C to copy, Command-V to paste. And I'm going to set it up at the very top also, just like that. Okay. And then I'm going to take this piece, we'll go ahead and hit Command-C to copy and paste it. This time after I paste this one, I'm going to go ahead and rotate it up vertically using that little box right here at the top, that little ball. And I'm going to move it over to the right side. And after I do that, I'm going to shrink it down a ways here to touch. Now again, the reason we have no borders on it is because now the pieces fit seamlessly and it all looks like it's supposed to be set up that way. Okay, I'll go ahead and shrink this one down just for the sake of keeping them relatively close. And then I can hit Command-C to copy that piece and Command-V to paste. And I'm going to drag it right back over here, making sure all the pieces touch. If for some reason it doesn't quite fit, you can always resize and drag over any border you need. But the biggest reason you have to have this border set up is if you don't, people have tendencies to cheat. They can slide off the screen with their cursor and circle around to the finish button regardless of what you have set up. Okay, so now that we have this border set up, giving everybody a chance here, go ahead and get your border set up around the outside. Then what I want you to do is using this basic piece, I just want you to build around your start button a maze and directions for this part of the maze to go to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down to about right here for right now. And just kind of following along, we're just going to keep copying and pasting pieces and rotate and building this so that after I have my start button set up here, I'm building a section for my cursor to actually have to travel through. Okay, I'm building a place for my cursor to actually have to travel through here. What I'll go ahead and do is now that that's set up there, I'll come back and copy this, Command-V to paste. I'm going to move this guy over to here. And we're going to sling him over to this side just like that. I'm going to shrink him down actually a little ways, right to about here. We want to keep a nice wide border for our cursors to have to travel through right now. Okay. And the reason for that is later we're going to set up some obstacles, but we'll just start with this basic setup. Okay, so based off what you see here, should have some type of S shape, that your cursor can travel through. Okay, so if I play this maze right, once I have this all set up, I'll go ahead and save real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and play my maze. All right, so I'm going to click Start. I'm going to click the Start button, and now my cursor is here. So if I touch a border, I lose. If I try to cheat, I lose. All right, so I'm going to have to come all the way around here. If I successfully get through my maze like I should, you just have to maneuver the tip of your cursor to make sure it doesn't touch any borders. If I get to finish, I win. Just like that. Basic setup, okay? So give everybody a minute here to make sure they have some type of setup that looks somewhat similar to this. It doesn't have to be exactly like it, but I want you to make sure that your alleyways for your cursor to travel through are really large right now. Okay, you can make it more challenging later, but for right now, make it easy to get through. Okay, just for the sake of getting through this. So give everybody a minute here. I'm going to go ahead and save again. Give everybody a chance to make sure they have this part set up, and we'll take a quick pause again in the video. All right, so now that we have this all set up, what we want to do is now add some obstacles. Okay, these obstacles we can actually have animations and movements and lots of different things to make this a little bit more challenging for us. Okay, anybody could click and drag through. They're not going to keep very occupied with this. But now we can add some obstacles that make it a little bit more challenging here. Okay, and we'll start with some basic stuff. So the first thing I want to do again is I'm going to have to set up some type of shape as an obstacle, and these are where your shapes can get really creative and fun. So let's say I want to start down here. Let's start with, let's say, this lightning bolt. I'm going to go ahead and pick this lightning bolt for right now. So I have my lightning bolt, and I'm going to draw it right here in the middle. Okay. With this lightning bolt, if you want to format it to a different color or style, that's okay. I'll go ahead and make it yellow for right now. On these guys, you don't have to worry about the outlines. I'm going to go ahead and make it all yellow for right now, just to keep it a basic setup, okay? So, once I add my obstacle here, the first thing I want to do with it, of course, is with any obstacle, I have to hyperlink it to make sure it's set that if I touch it, I lose. So once I have my shape created, I'm going to go back to my Insert tab, and I'm going to click the Action button. Now on this one, if you haven't figured it out, if it's between mouse click and mouse over on obstacles, it has to be mouse over. If it's not mouse over, it will not work. It's just going to sit there, and you could easily run your cursor over. It doesn't work that way. So we go to mouse over, we're going to hyperlink it to, and we're going to go down and choose slide ... and you figured it out. If you touch it, you go to you lose. So mouse over, hyperlink to, slide you lose. And then we'll click OK. So there's my basic setup. Okay, so I have one obstacle in here. But instead of just keeping this to kind of stay stationary, we're going to set it up so it has to move a little bit. Okay, we're going to set it up so it has to move. And this is where we go to our Animations tab now. So really quick, everybody go to your Animations tab. Once again, make sure you're saving as we go. And we'll start right here. Okay, this is where all these different animations that you probably don't use too often outside of some text in your presentations, we can make this a little bit more challenging for us. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is let's go ahead and set this guy to spin. So right up here under Animations, if I put my cursor over here in this middle section, these are the different types of animations once it is already in the presentation. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is you can hit the drop down arrow and see all the different types of animations you have here to choose from. We're going to choose the one that is set up to spin right here. Okay, and when you choose spin, over on the right side it pulls up the animation pane, which we're going to need. Okay, we need this animation pane. Now most animations we have it set that when you click the animation begins and it does it once and that's it. But we're going to get this to not only repeat throughout the duration of the slide, you're not going to have to click anything for it to start. It's going to begin right from the get-go when you begin the slide. Okay, so right now when you're looking at this, if you successfully set it to the spin animation, you have your window pane on the right, you see this number 1, and it's set to lightning bolt. Typically with your animations, it numbers it off. I'm sure many of you have seen this before if you've used animations. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we're going to come down here to Effect Options. Okay, come down here to Effect Options. Essentially what you want this to do is you can change what the effect looks like or does. Okay, as far as property goes, we have this spinning, all the way around 360 degrees, which is what we want. We don't want it to do any sounds or after the animation to dim away or anything like that. That's fine, okay? So just want you to see that. We're going to come down here to timing. Timing on this is everything. The first thing you see is where it starts. It says it starts on click. You're going to change it from starting on click to start with previous. Again, you click on timing and you choose start with previous. If it's not with previous, it won't work unless you click in the presentation. We don't want to have to do that. So you change it to start with previous. Okay? Now, as far as the duration goes, it says it's set to 2 seconds. It was how long it would typically go before it stops. So this is the speed of the spin. For right now, we'll go ahead and keep it as medium. Just 2 seconds for about spinning. Okay? Down here is where it's most important, okay, where it says repeat, okay, where it says repeat. We're going to change this repeating from none. I want you to go all the way down to the bottom where it says until end of slide, okay. So it's set to starting with previous, repeating until the end of slide, set to the speed of 2 seconds, okay. So once you change those timing options, we're going to go ahead and click the play, okay, so you see what it looks like. So essentially what's going to happen, although it stops right there, just to give you a preview, it's set to repeat the spinning throughout the entire time. All right? So now that you have this set, real quick, let's take a quick pause. Make sure you have all these settings taken care of. If you see a 0 in the beginning of this, that means it's ready to go. Okay, the animation is set, ready to go, and it'll work from the get-go. So if that's the case, I'm going to come back here to my beginning. I'm going to go to the slideshow tab. I'm going to play from the start. So let's test this out. If I click the start button, I see my lightning bolt. If I touch the lightning bolt, I lose, which is what we want. Okay. I click start. I come back. I'll see if I can't get by it. Oh, and I did. That's good. Perfect. And it works fine. I'll go ahead and lose real quick and we'll escape out. All right. So over here, let's try a different shape with a different animation. Okay. If you successfully got that to work, just hang out here real quick. We're going to take a quick pause. If you did not, go back and double check the animations on your shape here. Okay, go back to the animations tab if you want. See all the different animations. Make sure you have it set to the right one. If you want to click on it and make sure, it'll show you the animation it's set to. You can check the timing. It's set to with previous. We're going to say for just 2 seconds, repeating until the end of the slide. Okay, if it's not set to those things, set it to them. If it is, hang out real quick. We'll take a quick pause, make sure everybody has gotten to this point. Okay. So now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and add another shape here. Let's go ahead and insert a new shape. This time, I'm going to go ahead and choose this circle shape for right now. Okay, with this circle shape. And I'm going to make this circle right over here. And it's going to be really big. In fact, I'm going to set this up where it takes up the entire pathway that I can't get by it, just like that. So once again, you can format it any way you want. I'm going to go ahead and format this. Let's say I'm going to make it green. Okay, I'll change the outline color to green, also kind of make it uniform. So there we go. All right. Now with this shape, once again, anytime you add a shape or an obstacle, the first thing you have to do, got to change the action settings. So I'm going to right click and choose action settings. I'm going to mouse over. I'm going to hyperlink it to slide ... till you lose. And I click OK. OK. So now I want to set an animation. This time, I want you to see where we have this grow and shrink option. Okay. Again, it's set right over here. We're going to choose this grow and shrink option right here at the top. Okay. So I choose grow and shrink. Right now, it's set to growing, which is the actual opposite of what we want it to do. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go down to effect options. Okay, this one's highlighted right up here. Make sure you have your oval highlighted. We're going to highlight it, and we're going to go ahead and change this. Okay, so we're going to say it to smaller 50%. Okay, smaller 50%. When you change that effect option, what should happen is instead of growing out, it's going to shrink it down to about half the size, which is what we want, and we're going to have this repeat. So once you change the property to smaller 50%, okay, I'm going to come down here under my timing and once again set to with previous. We're going to go ahead and set it for 2 seconds like now, and we're going to repeat again until the end of slide. So under timing, set to with previous, 2 seconds, repeat until the end of slide. You can click the play button up here and see what it looks like. So it shows you, okay? It shows you what it's going to look like from there, okay? Very simple setup. So now, once again, we'll go and test this out. Go ahead and make sure if you did it right, make sure you're saving. Let's go preview our presentation. If you want to preview all the animations together just to see what they look like, up here in the upper left corner of the animations tab, if you click this preview, it'll show you what the animations are going to do throughout the slide. Okay, it looks like it only does it once. That's okay. It's just previewing it. If you want to test it out, we just go to slideshow. Let's play from the start. Here we go. So I click start. Now we got set up, so I'm going to get by my lightning bolt. Oops, I didn't get there. The green touched me. I'm going to click home. So I'll go back. I get by my lightning bolt. I got to time this up perfectly to get by, and I made it good. Perfect. Great setup. Okay. All right, let's try another challenging one right here. Okay, this time what we're going to do is we're going to insert an arrow that is going to shoot across our screen from off and on, repeated over and over. So it's kind of a timing mechanism here. Okay, so what I want to do is first, again, we're going to take a quick pause real fast, make sure everybody got to this point. Okay, if you got to this point, we'll continue, but real quick, let's take a quick pause. All right, everybody's made to this spot. That's good. So I'm going to click my Shapes button. I'm going to go ahead and insert down here just a basic block arrow. We want this one to be chasing us. So I'm going to draw him right here all the way across. Relatively about the size, I'd say just wide enough to match up the length of my column here, or this length of row I've got to get across. So first thing, again, I've got to change the action settings to mouse over, hyperlink, to slide, you lose. Mouse over, hyperlink to slide, you lose, click OK. And then after that's done, I'll go ahead and change the fill color here for this one. We'll go ahead and choose a nice red color. And I'll go ahead and just change it to no outline for right now. So there it is. So now with this one, what we're going to do is we're going to put this on what's called a path. Okay, on a path, what you can do is set a general direction of what way you want this animation to move. Okay, so what you want to do is with this shape selected, under my Animations tab, right over here on the right side, you see this button that says Path Animation. Path Animation. So I'm going to click this button, and we're just going to say for this time, we're just going to click this line option right here. So under the line Path Animation, we come down under Basic where it says Line. So we click Line, and the first thing it's going to do look like it drops it down. I know it's not the right path right now, but that's okay. We need this animation first. Okay. Anytime you add an animation, right up here at the top, you also have your effect options. So I'm going to click the effect options. If you haven't figured out, what we want this arrow to do is go from the right to the left. So instead of having it down, I click left. Again, and now you kind of see a general direction of which way it's moving, which is just what we want. Again, we change the effect option from down to left. That's the first step. Okay. Now with this animation, the first thing I want you to notice is this line right here on the arrow. Okay, this shows you the path that this is going to go on. We can actually move this path of the arrow as far off of our screen as we want. Okay, so what I'm going to do is when you click on this arrow, you see where it finishes at, right? You can click this button right here. I'm going to click on this guy, and holding down Shift as I do this, I'm going to hold Shift, and that's going to keep my line straight. I'm going to drag the arrow fully off my screen so you can't even see it right here. Okay, just fully off, just a hair. Okay, and I want to do the same thing with the start arrow. Okay, so I click on the green dot over here and I hold Shift, and it's going to start off my screen now, just like that. Okay, so you should see a line that stretches all the way across off my slides here. Okay, so with this basic setup, after I set that, once again, I have to reset this. So I go down to timing, and I change it to start with previous. We're going to change the duration just a little bit slower, just so we can see if we can't get by here. Okay, and we're going to repeat this again until the end of the slide. So start with previous, duration for 3 seconds, and we'll repeat until the end of slide. So if you want to see it, we'll click the preview button up here, and that's what's going to happen. The arrow is going to shoot off of our screen, repeated over and over again. Okay, so we set the arrow, we put it on a path animation of a line, we change the effect options to the left, and we change the direction, or excuse me, not the direction, but the start point and the end point of the arrow. Okay, so with that set, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and test this out. Let's see if I can't beat it. Okay, so I'm going to click play from start. So I've got the setup. I click my start button. All right, I'm going to see if I can't get by these guys here. All right, got by all these guys. I'll go ahead and test it. Oh, nope, the arrow touched me. I click home. Let's go back and try this again. We made it safely. And then I'll click finish. Okay. All right, so at this point, you kind of have a general idea of how to set up these animations. All right, this is just a very basic practice setup for you. Okay, what you're going to be doing is hopefully before the beginning of next week. So you're going to have 1 week to work on this, not only in class, but you're going to want to work on it outside of class time as well. Your job is to build a 2-level maze for everybody who gets a chance to play. Okay, hopefully if we have time on Monday, we will get an opportunity to go ahead and have everybody play each other's maze games all day, since that'll be essentially the last time I have you in class. Okay, so it's really going to take a lot of focus and a lot of dedication on your guys' part to make this work. All right. Rule number 1 when you set up these maze games: do not create an impossible maze. Okay, I don't want you setting up impossible animations that nobody can really play because you think it's funny. That's not going to help anybody. All right, you have to make it beatable. You don't have to make it too easy, but your job is to make sure it's actually beatable. Okay, you have to be able to beat the maze. All right. Rule number 2, making sure that you're doing this in a timely manner. So you want to effectively use your class time. That doesn't mean talking to your neighbors. I understand if you're asking for help, but all you want to make sure you do is you have this basic setup that works. Okay, just borders and obstacles along the way trying to get to the finish. All right, start to finish, that's what you want to set up. All right, as long as you follow these things, you guys are going to do fine. All right, when I get back to class, I'll show you other couple helpful hints and tricks and things like that. But for the most part, this is our basic setup. I'm sure many of you along the way will figure out a couple of hints and tricks and things that you can use to cheat, and I'll also show you how to counter those later. But from what you can tell right here, this is a very simple setup. You can go through and do a lot of different things on this practice for right now if you want. You can change the animations, do lots of different stuff. You can set stuff on multiple paths. You can make them disappear and reappear. You can have something chase you after you get to a certain point. It's all really cool and possible once we get to that point. But I just want to start it with a very basic setup at this point, okay? So make sure you save this as you go. You will get a chance to go back. Since this is your final maze, you can go back and change your borders and your paths. You can change all these different tools and pieces and your obstacles. All that stuff you can change as you go. I just wanted to give you a basic setup. So if you understand it well enough, we're going to go ahead and turn you loose from here. If you don't, we can always go back and replay anything from this presentation, but we'll also give you guys a chance to help each other out, okay? I'm asking you and I'm trusting you that you're going to use your class time wisely. I don't know how much time's left. Hopefully we got through everything, but I'm going to turn you loose from here, okay? When I come back on Wednesday, we will have plenty of time to discuss this in person, giving you a chance to get this taken care of, all right? Appreciate your help with this, guys. Hopefully you guys were able to follow along okay, and it all went well. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon.